Welcome to From Plastic to Fantastic, where we're gonna take a look at various units from the tabletop and see how they actually match up their in-game version. This time, we're gonna deviate a little bit and let's actually take a look at a unit that's absolutely phenomenal in the game and absolutely devastating on the tabletop. You want a hint about this unit? It's leathery, made out of hard wood, it's got a pointed tip,
That's what she said.
and it's crossed over the insane line. It's Doom Divers. Get inside a bomb shelter and pray that these guys don't hit you in the sack while we take a look at some scrolls of lore which show that you don't have to be smart to invent a weapon of mass destruction, you just have to be very likely to die. By nature, goblins are devious little creatures, and even though they're not physically imposing, they make up for their lack of not hitting the gym regularly with their sheer malevolence. They're sneaky, they're cunning, they're short, and they'll probably stab you in the private parts if you're not paying attention, such as life in the Badlands or on the Great Steppe of the Darklands. Do greenskins actually have private parts, or it's just like a big mushroom? I don't even know, man. On average, regular goblins and hobgoblins are nomadic. Sedentary life doesn't really pay off when you're so small that you end up being stomped on by orcs, or trolls, or giants, or just about anything that's at least 10 inches taller than you. Traveling across the steppe can be a very dangerous prospect considering everything wants to kill you, even the goblins you're riding with. The goblins needed a safer way of scouting the territory. Safer being a very relative word in the goblin dictionary, but I'm not really sure the goblins even have a dictionary. It kind of requires a little bit of a more advanced thought process into that one. Thus, the Doom Diver was born, a tool of annihilation, a doomsday device, an incarnation of North Korea that actually gets shit done, which ends up being a loony goblin with leather bat wings. It's pretty anticlimactic, isn't it? The machine has a wooden frame, and sinew is made from troll guts. Troll tissue has extreme regenerative properties, as well as strength once it's, cured, so to say. I don't think you can get rid of the smell, though. The distance of the Doom Diver always depends on how hard the crew pulls back the sinew, because goblins, in their eternal wisdom, have a tendency to pull way too far, which sometimes ends up with the Doom Diver hitting the ground in front of him, or a really big rock. The Doom Diver is aimed upwards and fired off into the clouds, and for once the laws of physics apply somewhat in a fantasy universe. The lucky goblin will descend swiftly from the sky under an angle, a truly majestic process of nature comparable to the mass migration of the monarch butterfly. The flight of a Doom Diver is best described by poetry, so I'll give you a pretty poetic explanation.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. Allahu Akbar!
You're actually gonna have a very hard time believing this, but being a Doom Diver doesn't mean certain death. Goblins have a natural tendency to bounce upon impact, and that's probably an evolutionary trait due to the untold millennia of being used as golf balls by orcs. I mean, getting hit by stuff is a daily occurrence for goblins. Many veteran Doom Divers end up coming back to this death-defying contraption before they're inevitably being put on life support because comas and brain death are an actual thing for greenskins. Greenskin lives matter? It's probably the best way for a gobbo to go, the meat Gorkin Mork, considering you've got other more horrifying options such as being on a Giants menu, being on an Orcs menu, being on a Trolls menu, being forced to appear in Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay. We've seen the background behind Doom Divers, now let's actually roll a dice and take a look at the tabletop. When it comes to the stats, the crew is pretty irrelevant combat-wise, to be honest. They're goblins after all, I mean, what did you expect? Unless you're some kind of hidden dice god, don't count on the crew doing anything in melee except dying. Then again, goblins are really good at dying, so there's that as a fact. Speaking of the actual artillery piece, however, insane. Crazy. Insane? Did I say insane again? I don't think you were expecting this from a greenskin unit, but Doom Divers are one of the most accurate artillery pieces in Warhammer. They fire like a stone thrower, hint hint, over stuff, and they don't use a normal stone thrower template when hitting models. Instead, they use the Doom Diver model, and by which obviously I mean the living ammunition. The Doom Diver can glide and guide into a target, after which you'll have to roll misfire and scatter dice. Proceed to move as many inches as the D6 shows and kill stuff when you land? Yeah, kill him dead. The Goblin way. Besides the accuracy, they have another reason to be feared on the tabletop. They actually do D6 strength 5 hits, which means that you roll a regular D6 dice and it does hits equal to the number shown. And the best part? The enemy can't use their armor save to get out of this one. Oh boy, oh boy. Doom Divers are amazing for assassination, especially against high armored units and obviously individual characters. Obviously, besides the whole assassination stuff, the Doom Diver can actually excel against regular units, though this is the catch. The Doom Diver only affects stuff that it's in base contact with, so realistically you can't hit multiple, aka different units, unless they're like somehow magically touching bases in combat, even though the rules do say you should be an inch apart at least. Though you kinda need to watch out if you redirect the Doom Diver, he always has to go the full distance rolled. As an example, you're aiming at that big, fat, juicy Nurgle Chaos Lord and you miss by 2, you get a 4, but you just fly over him. Anticlimactic, isn't it? All in all, Doom Divers are amazing. They're basically one of the best, if not the best according to some people, artillery piece in Warhammer on the tabletop. And you're pretty much crazier than the Goblin being used as live ammunition if you don't use Doom Divers on the tabletop, if you happen to be playing the greenskins, that is. Now, it's time for the in-game version. The Doom Diver costs 800, so it's one of the cheaper artillery pieces in the game, but don't let the price tag fool you, cause these guys are literally the equivalent of Godzilla in Japan. But then again, that's kinda funny in the game right now. Cheap artillery pieces perform godlike, while the majority of the expensive artillery pieces are just a flashy waste of money. Godzilla aside, what do the Doom Divers actually do? Well, it's really simple. Kill stuff and kill stuff dead. Just like on the tabletop, the Doom Diver has pretty great accuracy for a war machine, and also a fun fact. Doom Divers are pretty responsive when you want to manually fire them, so if you got the spare time, you should try playing around with them. Just remember the controls for the Doom Diver are inverse, so you gotta aim down to go up and stuff like that. Then again, if you're wasting time doing Doom Diver tricks, I have a feeling most of your infantry is gonna die horribly. The Goblin way. Doom Divers have 400 range. It's not the best, but the number value is pretty solid. As an example, Dwarf Cannons and Grudge Throwers outrange them by 20, while the Empire Cannon outranges the Doom Divers by 50. Doom Divers don't have armor piercing attribute, but they're still fine to use against armor due to having 50 AP, and their base damage is pretty amazing, I'd say. The Doom Diver doesn't have as much range or damage as cannons, so how does it actually compete? Quite simple. The Doom Diver's main selling point is its versatility. It's accurate, it's crazy, it's fun, it's accurately crazy fun. It fires quicker than a lot of artillery pieces with a base reload time of 16.2 seconds. It's not as effective against armor as it is on the tabletop, but they're still capable of doing a lot of damage to heavily armored units. It's not as good against large targets as a cannon, but it can still be used to hit giants in the gut. Though, unlike a steam tank cannonball, the Doom Diver won't knock down a giant because, you know, laws of physics, I guess? For once in a fantasy universe? Yeah. As you can expect, it's great against regular, low-armored troops, and because of its accuracy, the Doom Diver is great for character sniping. While obviously it won't two-shot lords, it will do quite alright damage to them. As an artillery piece, there's not much to say about their tactical use besides picking the right targets and flank deployment. As common sense would dictate you, always try to position your Doom Divers on the high ground. Since the Doom Diver is an artillery piece, it's obviously not able to defend itself in melee, and that's kind of what you get for having Goblin Crew. To protect your Doom Divers from fast attack units such as Flyers, Warhounds, or Cavalry, have some protection around the Doom Divers, such as Big Guns. They're great as backup units because of their bonus versus large, or you can just play it relatively safe. Okay, not safe at all, and bring regular goblins or night goblins as dirt cheap meat shields for the Doom Divers. All in all, you're a bad-winged loony if you don't bring these guys in your army. Seriously, I'm not a big fan of artillery in general, but I absolutely love the Doom Divers. That's it for this episode. Vote in the comment section which unit you want to see next broken down in this style. And until the next time, try not to score a combination of PCP, crack, and mushrooms because obviously goblins don't have an easy life at all.